I know the time does not stand still. Can see the world when it's spinning, spinning, compensating for the moments that I spilled. Wish I could fly like an airplane, airplane. Stop forsaking everything that I've done. Won't be breaking easily now. I could make it even though the lights are out. So I wait for my cue. So tell me straight up, up, up. I don't want it, no other way, no other way, other way. Tell me straight up, up, up. I don't want it, no other way, no other way, other way.
Hi guys, it's Marcus from Totally Silenced Tech. Now today, the GTX 1070 has landed at TST headquarters. MSI kindly sent out their Gaming X edition. Now I'm going to go through everything about the card, including, of course, some epic benchmarks. Now replacing the GTX 970, the 1070 has a lot good going for it, but unfortunately the price is a fair bit higher upon release, coming in at $419.99 UK pounds, but US prices are currently around the $500 mark, although that can of course change at any time. So it's not as cheap as the GTX 970 was upon release, which is a great shame, but how much more powerful is it? There was a lot of hype surrounding the GTX 1070's bigger brother, the GTX 1080, as it was supposed to be as powerful as two GTX 980s. Since we know that is now not the case, can the GTX 1070 hit anywhere near the performance to justify your hard-earned cash? I'm going to be mainly focusing this 1070 review on a direct comparison with my current GPU, the 980 Ti, to see if the 1070 can beat it. The GTX 980 Ti is currently dropping in price drastically right now. Now the big question is, if you're in the market for a new GPU, which one should you go for? And if you're a 980 Ti owner, would it be worth picking up a 1070? Running over the key features you get with a card like this, the MSI Gaming X GeForce GTX 1070, it features a custom upgraded PCB. It has an improved fan design with a stock overclock straight out of the box. It has 1920 CUDA cores, way down from the 980 Ti's 2816. The GTX 1070 also has 8GB of GDDR5 memory, 2GB more than a GTX 980 Ti. The MSI 1070 has a clock speed of 1607 MHz, 1797 in overclock mode, compared to only 1178 MHz from the 980 Ti. But just remember guys, this is a completely different architecture. But memory clock is at 8108 MHz versus 7100 MHz of the 980 Ti. Other features of the MSI GTX 1070 is what you should expect from a card at this price point. 3 display ports now supporting 1.4, which should be able to drive 4K at 120Hz. Now this is exciting time guys for PC gamers. Now we also get on the back of the card one HDMI 2.B and one DVI port. The recommended power supply is 500 watts. This is for the card and your whole system, but overall power consumption of the card is 150 watts, although that is a bit more of a buffer and you should expect for the card to use a lot less than that. Comparing that to the 980 Ti's 250 watt TDP or power consumption, there is definitely some savings from your electricity bill to be gained if you choose the GTX 1070. MSI have now released the twin Frozer 6 cooler with the GTX 1070 and 1080 with a patented torque 2.0 fan technology. Now this allows you to achieve 14% higher average clock speeds and up to 40% less noise with 20% lower temperatures compared to Nvidia's Founders Edition blower style cooler. The twin Frozr 6 cooler is extremely quiet. The fans only kick in once the GPU temperature hits 60 degrees Celsius, and using it this past week has been bliss to my ears. I've owned a reference 980 Ti for a while and the blow style fan is pretty loud under full load. So much so in fact I do kind of regret buying it. Nvidia's blower fan cooler has improved greatly over the past few years, but unless you're going SLI I wouldn't recommend it over a custom cooler. But overall guys, the twin Frozr 6 is super quiet and I've heard nothing but a whisper. Even at full load I could literally not hear a thing, but admittedly my PC is on the floor, but even so I'm extremely impressed. MSI have gone even further with improvements to their custom cards extending to the heatsink as well. Now airflow control technology has been added which helps direct more airflow to the heat pipes, aiding in cooling. Now some other features I quite like about the design is the 8mm thick copper heat pipes. They have a smooth squared shape at the bottom to maximise heat transfer from the surface of the base plate, again aiding in cooling. Throw all that together and we get a seriously powerful cooler, able to keep our temperatures low and our frame rates as high as possible. Now I'm going to do a sound test for you guys, but I know it's pretty hard to tell a card's noise levels through a recording of a microphone, but I'm going to do it anyway. But just to note, I haven't heard any coil whine from the card, and the noise test you're about to hear is when I was benchmarking the card at full load with VSync completely off, of course. MSI's custom PCB has zero shortcomings either. The parts graded to military class 4, featuring super ferrite chokes, Japanese solid caps and high caps. It's not only built to last, but it will provide the best possible overclocks. But looking over the card, I was extremely surprised by its size. This thing is an absolute beast. Not much in thickness or length, but width coming in at 140mm. That's over an inch more in width compared to MSI's 980 Ti. I could hardly fit the screwdriver to fix the card to the PCIe brackets, but that said, I love how much it fills up the case, but it's one extremely heavy card. The motherboards I have here have steel PCIe brackets, so GPU sag isn't much of an issue, but I would like to see how the card fares in a board without it. Moving on, it seems that card manufacturers have finally worked out that we all want to have nice shiny backplates on our GPUs, although it's great to see you can still buy cards without them at a cheaper price. But overall the backplate finishes off the card very nicely. Now I bought a reference 980 Ti when it was first released, and if there's anything I missed when I was looking inside my PC case at the reference 980 Ti was a backplate. The card's lighting I found pretty good, but then I do have a red and black build that will match the card itself, although I will say having RGB lighting on a card with a strong colour like red is kind of pointless, as any colour apart from red and white isn't going to match, but then not everyone is as fussy as me. We also get some red lighting on the rear cooler which glows. It's definitely not distracting, and it took me a while to even notice it was there. Every GPU manufacturer seems to be pushing this year's top tier cards heavily towards VR. The GTX 1070 is definitely the card that I think most people will be going for. The performance required to run the Oculus Rift and the HTC's Vive at decent frame rates of 90 FPS fall right in line with the GTX 1070's performance, and that is certainly not a coincidence. Another great feature you get with the 1070 and 1080 is called Ansel. Now if you haven't heard about this, I will try to explain. Ansel revolutionizes what is effectively a screenshot of your games. allowing you to pause in-game and use a free camera, moving around in-game like you find in some games already. That's nothing new in itself, but the 360 and virtual reality 360 screenshots will be possible with Nzxt technology, allowing you to create virtual screenshots of your game and view it later on a virtual reality device. Awesome stuff. Another feature that's exclusive to the Pascal architecture, which is currently the 1070 and the 1080, is to do with triple screen gaming. Now, I haven't been triple screen gaming myself for very long, but I found it very frustrating with this certain issue. The issue is that the screens do not match up between the bezels. Without going into too much detail, Pascal GPUs will allow you to adjust each monitor's perspective on the 3D world, allowing you to line up everything correctly. Overclocking the 1070 I found super easy using MSI Afterburner. I reached an extra 190 on the core, hitting a max of 2113.5 MHz. Memory, I added an extra 250 MHz, which totaled a whopping 2152 MHz, and I didn't even unlock the core voltage. Anyway guys, moving on to the benchmarks. Now I'm hoping that these will serve as valuable information to anyone that's upgrading their GPU in the future to either one of these cards, the GTX 1070 and the 980 Ti, especially since they're both priced about the same. Now I shouldn't think the 1070 would be a worthwhile upgrade from the 980 Ti, but I do expect it to beat it out in the benchmarks. But anyway guys, time for some benchmarks, and afterwards I will talk about my overall opinions and round off with a bit of a summary.
Repeating in a pattern that we made up. Too long now, we've been going so we messed up. You are not easy to please, yeah, yeah, yeah. The things I used to love with you just no longer do. And I know that it's the same for you, yeah, you feel it too.
So there's the benchmarks. As a summary, the 1070's price point seems perfect for the performance you get when comparing it to the 980 Ti. There's only a small gap in performance between the two, favouring the 1070, and the 980 Ti comes in just a little bit cheaper. That said, with the extra performance, 2GB of DDR5 memory, I could only recommend you spend that little bit extra and get the 1070. It's a shame the 1070 won't have that much of an impact as the 970 did when it was first released, and it makes me wonder how much the 1060 is going to cost. For budget gamers that want to upgrade, hopefully they won't have to wait too much longer to try out Nvidia's new Pascal architecture. But for those early adopters, jump into Pascal. MSI's X 1070 offers blistering performance at 1080p and 1440p, maxing out most games at 60Hz, and if you're thinking of picking up a VR headset, it's the perfect card. It's just a shame that the 1070 in general didn't have the price point like the 970s did. But anyway guys, I've been Marcus from Totally Silence Tech. Goodbye.